Good morning, and we're in chapter 16, and we're going to see the finish of Samson, the end of Samson. And this is, Samson and Delilah's story. Then went Samson to Gaza and saw there an harlot and went unto her. So his old wife is dead. He's gone to a harlot. And now there's going to be more. And has told the Gazites, saying, Samson is come hither. And they encompassed him and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city, and were quiet all the night, saying, In the morning, when it is day, we shall kill him. And Samson lay till midnight, and rose at midnight, and took the doors of the gate of the city, and the two posts, and went away with them, bar and all, and put them upon his shoulders, and carried them to the top of the hill that is before Hebron. And it came to pass that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and said unto her. So that story was kind of interesting. They kind of encompassed around, but he left anyway. He just took the gates with him, so they couldn't keep him locked in. And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and said unto her, Entice him, and see where his great strength lieth, and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. So that's a lot. Remember, 30 pieces of silver bought a slave. And they're talking about 1,100 pieces of silver. That's a lot of money. And Delilah said unto Samson, Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, wherein thou mightest be bound to afflict thee. So Delilah just comes out and says that. I guess I think it's a flirty thing. Every time I read this, I think of her just flirting with him. So, come on, just tell me. And Samson said unto her, and him flirting back, If they bind me with 7 green withs, which is kind of like cords, fresh, moist sinews from animals, so not old ones, that were never dried, then shall I be weak and be as other men. And the lords of the Philistines brought up her 7 green withs, which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber. And she said unto them, The Philistines be upon thee. Said unto him, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he brake the withs as thread of tow is broken when it toucheth the fire, so his strength was not known. And Delilah said unto Samson, Behold, thou mocked me, and told me lies. It's really weird, this back and forth, because they're both lying to each other, and they're kind of like, oh, well. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, If they bind me fast with new robes that never were occupied, then shall I be weak and be as other men. And Delilah therefore took new robes and bound him wherewith, and said unto him, The Philistines be upon thee, and Samson, and there were liers in wait abiding in the chamber, and he brake them from off his arms like a thread. And Delilah said unto Samson, Hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, If thou weavest 7 locks of my head with the web, and I think that has a web of the loom. She fastened it with the pin and said unto him, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he wake up out of his sleep and went away with the pin of the beams and with the web. So he took the loom with him, basically. And she said unto him, How canst thou say, I love thee, when thine heart is not with me? Thou hast marked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherewith great strength lieth. It's a weird story, but I do feel that it's sort of this back and forth banter that you might get when you're flirting with someone, and I feel that that's where I'd put it. And it came to pass that she pressed him daily with her words and urged him, so that his soul was vexed with death, unto death. So this wasn't the thing. The 3 times wasn't the only time she just talked to him about it. She's always going, oh, just tell me. And he told her all his heart, and said unto her, There hath not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my father's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak like unto other men, any other men. Now, here is where I feel that we have to look more at the story. Was it his hair? And I think there's a good article on the side here on the right. What role did Samson's hair play in his strength? Samson's hair was not the source of his strength. Rather, it was the symbol of his covenant relationship with God. Who was the source of Samson's strength? Who was the source of Samson's strength? Samson lost both his physical and spiritual strength because he violated his covenants with God, including those that applied specifically to Nazarites. So he's telling her, I don't know how he felt about these things. If he really felt that it was just his hair that gave him strength, or if he's just saying, if I break this covenant. But I think he must have known that covenant at some point, even though he had already broken several of the other covenants, touching a dead body and so forth. I think that he knew what he was doing. I was thinking about Esau and the mess of pottage and selling his birthright for pottage. Here we have somebody that is telling this because he likes to be with this one woman, and he's willing to give up his birthright, or that which God has given him, for it. And when Delilah saw that he told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, Come up this once, for he hath showed me all his heart. Then the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and brought money in their hand, and she made him sleep upon her knees, and called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he woke out of his sleep, and said, I will go out as other times before, and shame myself. And he knew not, or wist not, that the Lord had departed from him. And the Philistines took him and put out his eyes, and brought him down to Gaza, and bound him with fetters of brass. And he did grind in the prison house. Howbeit, the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaven. Even in this tale, it sounds like they're talking about the hair, but let's see what it says. Then the lords of the Philistines gathered them together to offer a great sacrifice unto Dagon, their god, and rejoiced, for they said, Our God hath delivered Samson, our enemy, to our hand. So after all this slaying and that, they finally think, oh, well, our God did this. Why might God have strengthened Samson once again? Notice, though, they're not that good of people anyway. After the Philistines captured and tortured Samson, they gave glory to their false god, Dagon, saying, Our God hath delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hand. Then Samson was brought between two pillars of Dagon's temple. He asked the Lord to give him strength so he could punish his enemies. Even though Samson's request to the Lord was selfish, self-centered, it is possible that the Lord granted it to demonstrate his power over Dagon. So they are there. After all this time, they're saying, oh, well, look how great our God is, when their God didn't do anything. And you can see why Samson is used in this context. It's the same thing that God has had to fight against with Israel for a long time. This worship of false gods, and the reason why the people, the Philistines and the others, were not supposed to be in the land. And when the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, Our God hath delivered into our hands our enemy. And we know that he didn't. It was because he wasn't keeping the covenants. And if his hair's been growing back, that means it's been a while. And the destroyer of our country would slew many of us. So they're only getting worse, not better. And it came to pass that their hearts were merry, and they said, Call for Samson, that he may make his sport. And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made them sport. They were basically teasing them, and they set him between the pillars. And Samson said, I wonder if Samson had been there before, and so he knew what was going to happen, or if, as in, he knew how the setup was, where these pillars were, or if he just knew basically what these were. This is a temple to Dagon, and it may have just been that somebody described it to him, or he just felt that this was right, the right place. And Samson said unto the lad that held him by the hand, Suffer me that I may fill the pillars whereupon the house standeth, that I may lean upon them. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there, and there were upon the roof about 3,000 men and women, that beheld while Samson made sport. There's a lot of people. It is a big place, it sounds like. And Samson called unto the Lord and said, O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me, I pray thee, and only this once. O God, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes. He still wants vengeance, but he also understands this is the last time, and that he can only do this once. He's consigned to his fate. And Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, and on which was borne up of the one with his right hand, and of the other with his left. And Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." And he bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people that were therein. So the dead which he slew in his death were more than he slew in his life. Then his brethren, I'm pretty sure it's some of the important people. This wasn't just a few soldiers. This was people who thought they'd conquered him and who were the leaders. Then his brethren and all the house of his father came down and took him and brought him and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the burying place of Manoah, his father. And he judged Israel 20 years. So that was Samson, and that was his story. And just to finish off this book, because this is the last one, we just got a few chapters. Micah has a house of God and consecrates his own priests. The Danites send men to seek an inheritance. They take Micah's images and priests and burn the city of Delilah and set up idolatry. The Levites' concubine returns to her father. Her husband takes her back, and they lodge overnight to Gibeah. The men of Gibeah abuse the concubine, and she dies. The Levite husband cuts her into 12 pieces and sends them to the tribes of Israel. Really weird things going on here. All Israel arises against the Benjamites, who refuse to deliver up the men of Gibeah. The Benjamites are smitten. The people lament the desolation of Benjamin. The inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead are destroyed for not engaging war with Benjamin. See, they're fighting within themselves here. Wives are provided for the remnant of Benjamin. And then we're on to Ruth, and we're going to do that this next week.